Hello, everyone. I'm Brenda Hummerding, and thank you for joining us today for our presentation. I wanted to quick get to my next screen. Whoops, I went too far. Okay, so I want to share with you the objectives of today's presentation. First of all, you will be learning about the Deaf Mentor Family Services Program, and you will also be learning about the Minnesota Hands and Voices Deaf and Hard of Hearing Guide Program. And you'll learn about what they both have to offer. You will also collect some ideas on how the programs work together to serve families. And then most importantly, I hope you will leave with the understanding about, the importance of collaboration between the programs to support the families. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Emily Smith-Lundberg, who is the Deaf Mentor Family Services Director. Emily?
Hello, everybody. My name is Emily Smith-Lundberg, and I want to tell you a little bit about who I am and where I come from to start before, so you get an idea who I am. Deaf. I was born deaf. I was born 2 months early, premature. I was the first deaf person in my family to meet, or my parents, when I was young. And I had a screening back then in the 80s. It was lucky that I had a screening because it wasn't commonly done. And my parents didn't know what to do with a deaf infant. So they went to Deaf and Hard of Hearing Services, and this representative then told my parents to learn sign, and they started doing that from a book. And they started meeting deaf adults, and I went to school started school when I was 6 months old. I was mainstream preschool through high school. I was mainstream. My parents were huge advocates about education, and they wanted me to have equal access to education and equal access to opportunities. It was a wonderful opportunity to socialize with my peers and other deaf and hard of hearing adults, and I had a really good foundation growing up. When I graduated high school, I went to Gallaudet, and I have a BA in deaf studies and a master's in sign language education. And now I'm the director here for Deaf and Mentor Family Services in Minnesota. I'm excited to share with you what our services are. Next slide, please. So who we serve is all families in the state of Minnesota who have a deaf or hard of hearing child, age 0 to 21. We focus 0 to 5, and that is when language acquisition period. We prioritize families in a way that from age to 5 is if the families are from if they're from a rural area, and the others, we connect them with deaf mentors if they're not in a rural area. So that's why we got a grant from Deaf and Hard of Hearing Services to serve families and there's no cost to the families for any of the services that we provide. Next slide, please. So we have 2 areas of service. We have the Deaf Mentor Program. This is where we focus on language education, language acquisition. We focus on the whole family, parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, whoever the family wants to involve or include in this, we include them. Also, our deaf and hard of hearing mentors come from all walks of life. Some grew up oral, some grew up from deaf families, some grew up residential programs. They come from all walks of life. But we use ASL as the priority language. So our families can ask questions to our deaf mentors about their experience, whether they're hard of hearing, whether they grew up in a rural environment or an urban environment. And our services are, we advocate services for our children. But the other program we have is called Empower, where it is an 8-session program. And it tends to be 7 to 21, age 7 to 21. And we focus a lot on conversation. Like the sessions are very conversational, supportive skills, how to be a friend, all sorts of support services that that child needs in these individual sessions. For a child to learn from another adult who's experienced what they have experienced is really important. Often a family will sign up for the empowerment program and they'll have a deaf mentor and they'll finish the 8 sessions and they decide they actually want a full-time deaf family mentor. Or the other way around, they're in the deaf family mentor family service and they realize they want additional services and they join the Empower program. So we're flexible in that way, and families can go from one program to the other or add the program to the existing one they're in. Our deaf mentors are in continual training. We have 2 trainings twice a year where the mentors all come together and they support one another, share ideas, share tips, they advocate one another. And we also train our deaf mentors and the families in the curriculum, in a particular curriculum. And that's an evidence-based curriculum. And also our mentors are trained in education for deaf and hard of hearing children, early language acquisition, and best practices in mentorship. So they also trained in ASL milestones in terms of language acquisition and family-centered services, cultural and community, as well as assistive technology that helps deaf and hard of hearing children. Next slide. So the sessions look like this. We focus on, we're very child-centered, whole child-centered. And we welcome family feedback, we welcome families to be involved, and we work with a whole holistic system. We encourage that. The more people who have ASL, more people for the child to interact with, the quicker they're going to pick it up. The first 8 sessions are online or remote, where the family will watch 6 or 7 courses or 6 or 7 classes, and 2 videos, short videos. It's called the Bravo curriculum or Bravo course, DCMP. They'll watch 2 videos, practice. They can watch it over again if they want, and then a deaf mentor will come up and review the signs, the concepts, answer any questions. That's a full 8-session course. And when they're done with that, then we start the in-person sessions in their home, or in a place that the family prefers to come to together. We do use the Deaf Mentor curriculum, and it's 2 years ongoing. And we meet every other week, so every 2 weeks. If the family prefers weekly, we can do that. It just means it'll be a shorter program than 2 years. They might come to the home and start with activities such as reading or a short ASL lesson. They'll discuss the concepts, what the lesson might look like, the objectives of that lesson, and signs and new language associated to those signs. The family, it becomes more of a dialogue of learning, using sentences, using ASL, and through activities so that what they learn sticks. Also, it will be applied to early visual communication, deaf culture, deaf history. We'll answer any questions the family has, plans for the next step or what the next session will look like will be included in that session. CRM, we have CRM, which is a database, and we have all the families in CRM, and every session, the deaf mentor will go in and see their family and input a report. And I get that report as well. And we can track each session and see how it's going to show progress. Okay, So that's what our sessions look like. And here are a few of our deaf mentors. They're the heart of our service, and they really invest their time, their energy, their hearts in family services. And they're a wonderful group, and I appreciate, and I'm so grateful for my team. You can contact us here for application. It's really simple electronic application. It gets sent directly to us, and we look at the application, and then we contact the family and go from there. We do offer that application in those 4 different languages that are presented on the slide. So now what I'd like to do is introduce Heidi. And she's the director of Deaf and Hard of Hearing Services. She's Heidi Nazario, and she's the leader of Deaf and Hard of Hearing Services, and I'd like to turn it over to her.
Hey everyone, thank you Emily for that presentation and introduction. My name is Heidi Liz Nazario, and I am the coordinator for the DHH Guide program for Minnesota Hands and Voices. A little bit about myself. I come from a family of deaf and hard of hearing. It is a progressive and genetic family. And I recently learned about a gene that causes my hearing difference. It's called ACTG1. And typically you find out later in life that you have a hearing difference. So I am deaf. I am Hispanic. I come from Puerto Rico. My parents are Puerto Rican. And I found out that I was deaf or hard of hearing in high school. And it was because my friends were telling me that I was speaking a little too loud. And that's when I decided to go to the audiologist and have my hearing checked. And they said that I did have a hearing difference. I didn't know a lot about what being deaf or hard of hearing was, because even though in my family I had family members who were deaf or hard of hearing, they didn't speak at all about what it was to be deaf or hard of hearing. It was just, well, I either use a hearing aid or I don't say it at all. I struggle with the conversation, but I won't say anything. So I was maybe one of the first in my family to kind of look for more resources. I wanted to find out who I was. I wanted to figure out my identity and how I fit into the hearing world, how my life was going to change at that moment. And so then eventually I ended up over here in Minnesota, which although more months of the year I'm shivering because it's cold, but the wonderful concept that came out of being over here was being able to lead a group of other deaf and hard of hearing adults to provide role models for DHH kids, just like I needed that when I found out that I was deaf or hard of hearing. Next slide, please. And then I will talk a little bit about the 3 programs that are under Minnesota Hands and Voices, although I will continue with the DHH Guide program. So we have the parent guides, and currently we have 8 parents of deaf or hard of hearing children. And they identify a common bond by sharing experiences, challenges, wisdom, and insight, and they provide resources. So they are commonly the first contact from Minnesota Hands and Voices to families. And then they talk about the 2 other resources, which are the DHH Guides, and the Astra Advocates. In Astra Advocates, there are 3 Astra Advocates. 2 are parents of DHH children, and 1 is a DHH adult who is also a DHH guide. They provide educational advocacy, support, and resources to families who need guidance through special education law and creating educational plans for their DHH children. And then it's us, DHH Guides. We're currently 4 deaf or hard of hearing adults and 1, oh, Brenda, could you go back? There we go. Sorry about that. And 1 deafblind adult. And we're uniquely qualified to provide families with a positive and hopeful perspective from their day-to-day real life experience as a DHH person living in a predominantly hearing world. So basically, we're meeting with families and sharing our experiences and connecting with DHH children and telling them that we are similar and that we've had similar experiences, and just providing that hope to families. Next slide, please. These are our DHH guides, and I include myself because I also visit with families. Because I speak Spanish and English, well, I also meet with families who are Spanish-speaking families. The first that you'll see is Hannah Harriman, and she identifies as deafblind. She uses a hearing aid. She provides great perspective, especially for us that have not worked with a deafblind individual before. Following, we have Shelby Gelden. She also identifies as hard of hearing, uses hearing aid, and is currently in college to be a teacher of deaf and hard of hearing. In the middle, and then following me is Kelsey Woodward, identifies as deaf, culturally deaf, uses ASL to communicate, and does not use technology. And last but not least, we have Sophia Barr. Sophia Barr uses one hearing aid, communicates with both spoken English and American Sign Language. And she is also our admin assistant. So she has a dual role, as well as Kelsey, who is our ASTRA advocate too. Next slide, please. So the benefits of meeting with a DHH guide, and here are some. We are sharing our lived experiences with families, allowing for a safe space for a conversation. We start to talk about how it's been for us growing up, what are the challenges and what are the good things, and technology we may have used or are using, relationships and things like that. And it opens up a conversation where families are able to ask some questions, some things that they're curious about. It also provides an opportunity to learn about the resources available for DHH families, because we are sharing those resources and we talk about the resources that we're currently using. Of course, role models are important. I know it because back when I found out that I was hard of hearing, I needed a role model. I wanted someone to sit down with me and say, hey, it's okay. I understand what you're going through. And most of the people that back then who would say they understood what I was going through really didn't have a hearing difference. So it was really hard to relate to someone who really didn't have that experience. So a child who is DHH, having that person in front of them and seeing that they've been able to get to where they are, to be successful. And they can also look at the variety of role models to shape how they behave in school, relationships, make difficult decisions. We also help build a support network. We, in a way, connect families. We hold events that are virtual or live or in person, and they allow for families to connect with one another and build a support network, and we're also there to support them. We navigate the common challenges of being DHH. Of course, we won't say that everything is great and bubbly, because we're human beings and all human beings have their challenges. So we talk about everything that involves being DHH as our own experience, and allowing the children to share their own experience, right? And then our services are free to all Minnesota families who have a child who's deaf or hard of hearing. So it's a great resource, along with Emily's program, the Deaf Mentor Family Services. And we are just excited for families to be able to benefit of all the resources that are available to them. Next slide, please. Okay, and here you will see there is a photo of one of the families that our DHH guides are visiting with. In our visits, in our first visit, we give the child or the family the option of receiving a Fostering Joy journal, which is available in English or in Spanish, or a book with a deaf or hard of hearing character. In this case, we're showing El Defo that has a deaf or hard of hearing character. For those of you who are not familiar with the Fostering Joy journal, was created by the Fostering Joy team, Enhancing Voices, celebrating the joy of having a deaf and hard of hearing child. And what the DHH Guide program for Minnesota Enhancing Voices did was created a kind of sister product to the Fostering Joy Journal for adults. And we have now a Fostering Joy Journal for kids, because we also want DHH children to be able to remember all the joys they have, and to share those joys with their family, so they can have that bond. They can talk about all the daily joys that they're living, not only every day talking about what it is being deaf or hard of hearing, but talking about the everyday joy. And I mean, I think it's a great product. I would have loved to have that with my parents. I think that what got me through to this point in my life was that I always had the support of my parents. But this is such a great product to be able to, like a keepsake, to look back on that, and be able to share that. Below you'll see the superhero powers that we share in our visits and our events. These come in little cards also, like collectibles. And what we do in our visits, we talk about each of the superpowers, reminding children that they in fact have these superpowers. They have creativity, they have courage, they have advocacy, etc. And relating or attaching experience to each one of these superpowers. Brenda, next slide, please. Okay. And so what Emily and I get a lot is that our programs are similar, or families sometimes confuse one or the other. And so we work together to create this Venn diagram. And what we have in the left, Emily will share in a minute, and then I will share my program, and then we're going to share the overlap, so that hopefully it'll be easier for families to understand the benefits of each program, and that you can benefit from both at the same time. So I'll turn it over to Emily so she can read her side of the Venn.
Okay, mine is over on the left. We are a language-based program. The goal is to teach families the language so that they can communicate, which is American Sign Language. So we are heavily based on helping these families communicate at a very young age with their families. We are a 2-year program, and it's up to them, like we showed before, which program that they wanted to be involved in. But we use the SKI program, which is the curriculum that we use. And it could be either 1 or 2 years.
And I'll start reading my about my program. It's Minnesota Enhancing Voices DHH program is a support-based program. So we are modeling communication and technology if it's being used, but we're not teaching. Our goal is to visit with families who desire that connection with a DHH individual, and we share our experiences. We are offering 3 visits to make sure that the child gets a full experience and gets to see the superpowers and the journal. But if a family says we just want this 1 visit, then we are okay with that. We just offer what the family needs, and we're supporting them on their journey. We started a curriculum called Channeling Your Superpowers, and this is for DHH guides to be able to use the journal and the superpowers in their visits. And like I said before, the superpower cards are given at visits and events, and the Fostering Joy Journal given at first-time visits. And then we'll go now to the overlap. Emily, do you want to do one and I do one? Okay.
That's fine. Sure, I can start. We support deaf and hard of hearing families, and that is one overlap that we both do.
We also share experiences related to being a DHH individual with families.
We also, both programs offer direct referrals that are made via email or the CRM, and we collect all the information that way.
And families have access to both programs at any point of their journey, not having to choose one or the other. So if you enrolled with the Deaf Mentor Family Services, you can equally have a DHH guide and vice versa. Emily and I work closely, we collaborate, and we're happy to meet with the families. So just reach out if you would like to have these services. I'll turn it over to Brenda.
Okay, thank you. Just a little background about myself. Let's see, where do I start? I grew up with deaf grandparents, so I was exposed to American Sign Language. I am the youngest of 4 siblings, and I am the only one out of my siblings that has a hearing difference or a hearing loss. I was identified at the age of 16, and so got hearing aid. That changed my life. Became more confident and able to accomplish all my goals. So moving forward, let's see, I am now married almost 30 years to my husband, Lynn, and we have twin girls. Both of our girls were born with a hearing loss, and so different technology. They choose to use speech and use CART or captioning, even though I was teaching them sign, and then I still use it with them, but they prefer to speak. And my one daughter, she is now married and has 2 boys. So we have grandsons, and both of our grandsons are deaf. Again, different technology, different modes of communication, but we're all doing well. So that's just a little bit about my background. And I started out as a parent guide for Minnesota Hands and Voices, and then became a lead parent guide, and now I'm in the Guide by Your Side manager position. So, whoops. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about our databases. Like Emily said, she has a CRM database, and so does Minnesota Hands and Voices. They are 2 separate databases, so we are not allowed to see each other's clients' information. However, because both of our programs are under Lutheran Social Services, which is another nonprofit organization, so we're part of the organization. So we're allowed to share necessary contact information between our programs. So what happens is when any of our staff at Minnesota Hands and Voices connect with a family, and we learn that the family wants to be referred to the Deaf Mentor Family Services program, we just have to simply click a box in our database, and it creates an email. And this is just an example of an email that would go to Emily and her staff, just giving the family's name, necessary contact information. So the other thing is, Emily and her staff and I, we work very closely on a monthly basis to track the names of families that are being referred to their program, the dates they were referred. We also have to track the dates of enrollment. That is part of our grant requirement. So then what happens is I take that information after I work with Emily and her staff, Randy. The 3 of us, we work on getting all of the necessary information. Then I have to report that back to MEDS, which is the grantees database, of those families that receive services from both the Deaf Mentor Family Program and also the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Guide program. So we do quarterly reports, joint reports about events and meetings that both programs attended, and we give those to our grant holders as well. So anytime Minnesota Hands and Voices has an event, we always invite a Deaf and Hard of Hearing Guide to attend and a Deaf Mentor to attend. And so they're available to meet with the families as well. data person, so I like my data. So I have to share some things that happened in 2022. I know it's crazy. We're almost through. We're going through the year of 2023 pretty fast. But anyway, we had 16 events where a deaf mentor and a deaf and hard of hearing guide were both in attendance throughout the year of 2022. This is just a list of some of the topics that those events were. So I just think it's cool that we have a variety. Some of those events are just mainly socialization. Some are educational. But you can just see that just from the titles that we have a vast variety of topics for the families. So again, because of our referral system, majority of the referrals to the Deaf Mentor Family Services Program are from Minnesota Hands and Voices. So we had 48 families that were referred to the Deaf Mentor Family Program. But like both of our programs, families can be referred to us at our website, self-referred from anyone in the community. But it's just nice to know that at Minnesota Hands and Voices, if any of our staff are talking with families and they want to learn more like ASL or about the deaf community, that's when we can refer those families to the Deaf Mentor Family Services Program. Also, our parent guides with Minnesota Hands and Voices can also talk to the families about the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Guide program within Minnesota Hands and Voices. And so we have 42 families referred to that Deaf and Hard of Hearing Guide program for the year of 2022. The other thing is once a year, we have a joint advisory board meeting. So both the Minnesota Hands and Voices and the Deaf Mentor Family Services Program and all of their stakeholders, we meet together at one time. And there's a lot of stakeholders that are at both meetings anyway. So it makes sense to have a joint one at least once a year. So, as I mentioned, there's more ways to refer to Minnesota Hands and Voices. Here's a QR code if you want to scan in to go to, it goes through a secure online link from our website. So anyone can refer families to the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Guide program or the Parent Guide program or the ASTRA program within Minnesota Hands and Voices. I'm just going to leave this up here for a little bit, but then I'm going to start sharing. I see we do have some questions in the Q&A, so we'll be starting to, I'll let William take over as I think he's going to be reading off the question. So thank you again for joining us today. I hope you find this very informative and that, you will work with your state to have a deaf mentor program and have a Deaf and Hard of Hearing Guide program, and that you can work together to support the families. So thank you.
Well, thank you. My first thought after hearing you is what an incredible example of leaders that parents who have the opportunity to meet individuals like you would take heart from in knowing, all of these possibilities from such diverse experiences in life and how your lives have been touched by hearing difference. So that was very impressive in and of itself. So we have a number of questions coming in. So I'd like to read a few of these questions, and then you can decide amongst yourself who is going to answer those questions. The first is a question where they are saying, can we get the curriculum? And I'm not sure if they're referring to the Sky High curriculum or what curriculum. So whoever wrote that, if you want to clarify, that might be good. The next question is, I'm wondering what ASL milestones you are using. Do you have a link that you would be willing to share for the milestones you use?
Sure. Yeah, I can share that link. Absolutely. And I'll contact Will and we can share it with the whole group.
Okay, so we can send that out when we send out the link to the recording of the webinar. Great. The next question is, if a child is hard of hearing, can the family request a hard of hearing mentor? How do the sessions differ from what you have described?
Are you talking the deaf mentor family services or the deaf guy? Like which program are you referring to?
Well, they didn't say.
This is Haiti. I'm really sorry to interrupt. I believe these questions came up while Emily was presenting.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Okay.
sure that up to question 5 are yours, Emily.
Okay. All right, perfect. Okay, so we have several hard of hearing children in our services, and the parents want their children to learn ASL. And our first session tends to be remote between myself, the mentor, and the family, and an interpreter. And we introduce ourselves, we talk about what the services are, what the expectations are, answer any questions, take advantage of all that while we give the interpreter. And then the family and the mentor will connect, set up their own sessions. There's no interpreter involved. We just keep it, there's no interpreter because we want the deaf mentor is already trained with how to work with the family, whether in whatever way they need to communicate, whether it's writing or whether it's texting or whether it's gesturing. So there's no interpreter during that meeting. And then the family, also it's better for language acquisition if the family just immediately starts communicating with that mentor directly.
And so a follow-up question to that one was, what about families who are using both sign language and spoken language? What sort of support is provided for spoken language development?
This is for me, right? Okay, so for our part, we would teach ASL and we would support the family with whatever decisions they make, whether it's spoken or sign language, and whatever choice they make, we encourage that and support that. And we have them develop a relationship with the teacher for the deaf, and anything that the family would need to support that student's choice to speak or have oral education. And whatever that child would need, we would support that.
The next question. Can you also give a little information on the grant that you received funding from?
Sure. In 2012, legislation there was a grant provided for, I'm sorry, let me just back up the interpreter. We received an amount of money for DHIV, and we report to them every 3 months. And this was a grant to support deaf and hard of hearing children and families. Does that answer your question?
We will find out if they ask again.
Okay, I hope I answered it.
This is Brenda. I would like to also just add that Minnesota Hands and Voices, we get 2 different grants. One for the Minnesota Hands and Voices parent guides, and that is through legislation, blood clot screening. But then we also get the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Guide grant, and that through the DHS department, as well as where Emily gets her grant from too. So.
So here's a question for all of you to chime in on. We know that in the large group of children who are deaf or hard of hearing, identified through the EDDI system, approximately 51% have a mild hearing loss or unilateral hearing loss. EDDI programs have the expectation that every family be given the opportunity to connect with a a family member of a child who is deaf or hard of hearing or a deaf mentor. What would that look like for that group of children who have a mild hearing loss or a unilateral hearing loss? Yeah, hey,
This is Katie. Minnesota Hands and Voices provide services to any degree of hearing difference. So when we're seeing our families, we're seeing from maybe unilateral to profound deaf or to culturally deaf, to all that spectrum of hearing difference. So we are seeing all these families, and we're putting ourselves out there as we're here for you. And it really depends if the family has availability or if they're interested in pursuing the program or the resource. But we are seeing all the families, no matter their hearing difference.
so does that mean that a family of a child with a unilateral hearing loss may be introduced to an adult who is using sign language, who is perhaps profoundly deaf? And how do they bridge their child's reality with that adult that they've been introduced to?
This is Haiti. That's a great question. We are trying to pair child with similar experiences of a DHH adult. And sometimes we can't because of that large spectrum of hearing difference. But that is why we have many different role models of different experiences to be able to find similar experiences to connect with the child. We do have in our team unilateral, but if there were a case where we didn't have a specific experience that the family is looking forward to connect with, then we would look into our other resources. For example, maybe I would reach out to Emily and ask if she would have a deaf mentor who connects a little more with this family, would be able to provide a session or connect with the family. So we are always looking to provide that experience, but we also know that even not having the exact same hearing level or difference, there are a lot of experiences that we can relate just by being deaf or hard of hearing. But we don't want to discount that there are specifics, for example, being unilateral, being deaf-blind. But like I said, we try to match them as best we can.
So this next question relates to the last one. What are some of the strategies you're using to increase enrollment in the Deaf Mentor and Deaf of Hard of Hearing Guide programs? And what are some barriers to families feeling comfortable pursuing these services?
This is Brenda. I'll answer this question starting out, but please chime in. The parent guides with Minnesota Hands and Voices, we, again, with our CRM, our database, we have a list of what we call intake questions to help the parent guides navigate conversations with families. And so both the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Guide program and the Deaf Mentor Family Services program are on that list. And so it is our parent guides' responsibilities to explain those programs to the families. And so that's one great way for, that's where we're getting those direct referrals, because we mentioned the program, and if the family is interested, we simply click that box, and, both programs, one or both programs will get those referrals, emails. But the other place is, again, the events that we have, and having both the deaf mentors and the deaf and hard of hearing guides at those events to introduce themselves to the families, to explain the families what the program has to offer. That's been a huge impact on getting families to join their programs. So Haiti or Emily, do you want to add anything?
Yes, we start off our meetings with a nice intro to getting to know each other. So They are exposed to the Hands and Voices program, and then they decide yes or no whether they're going to go, but we make it very interactive so that we can all meet each other.
So the next question comes from California. In California, we're only able to provide deaf mentors for children under age 3 because they're serving the whole family in the context of an IFSP. Then it gets cut off when the child turns 3, when they transition to an IEP. Did you encounter any of those barriers when getting deaf mentor services funded for children over 3? Any suggestions for other states that encounter those age-specific barriers?
Yeah, in Minnesota, we are very, very fortunate that we have up to 21 to take care of these students. That's why the SKI HI program is so valuable in having this database, and that helps us get through. So, but please feel free to contact me, whoever that question was from, with my contact info, and I will be able to help out a little bit more. But yeah.
And how should our presenters go about contacting any of you if they're interested in continuing this dialogue?
Yes, on the last slide of the PowerPoint, maybe we could throw it up. All of our contact information is on that. You're more than welcome, whatever is easiest for you. There's all different modes to contact us. Please feel free any way or any means.
Okay, we'll put that up again in a moment. The next question, are the deaf mentors paid? And if so, what are the funding sources?
Yes, our deaf mentors are paid. That part of that grant money that was received, that's how we pay our mentors. It also pays for their training. It pays for their time with the families, transportation time, mileage. So they're getting reimbursed for different things to help these families out.
Okay, so several of you are asking about the PowerPoint and other things. Know that this entire presentation is being recorded and will be posted on infanthearing.org in the next couple of days. So you'll be able to stream through it, start and stop, and look at all of these slides again that way. And also keep in mind that that's a great way to share this experience with folks who weren't able to attend live with us today. Let's see if there are any other. We had one question that came in for Haiti. Do you send different deaf or hard of hearing guides to the same family, or do they have 3 visits from the same guide?
This is Haiti. That's a great question. In that first contact with the family, and it's we ask them if they have a specific DHH guide they want to meet with, and sometimes they will say yes, sometimes they will say no, whichever will be good. In that first one, we try to match them with a DHH guide who has a similar experience to them. And it could be that in that first visit, the child really connected with the DHH guide and they'll say, I would really like to see you again. But then it could be that the child realized that they want to learn a little more about another person's experience. And so that second visit could be another DHH guide or could be 2. So we've had visits where we've had 2 DHH guides attend, and it just provides more experience, more opportunity for the child to have more perspective of what future holds for them. So we do change them, but it's with family's consent, right? So family is agreeing that they would like to hear more experiences or different experiences. And so we could have another DHH guide attend another visit.
So one more combined question here. Can you say anything more about how you go about recruiting your DHH mentors, and specifically about recruiting male DHH mentors?
Well, for the deaf mentors that we work with, we recruit by being involved with the community. We set up tables. We are out in the community meeting other deaf and hard of hearing. The mentors themselves are living among us in the community in the Minnesota area. I agree, it is very difficult sometimes to find, to get the word out, to get their help, to get somebody interested, somebody experienced, somebody that would be a good fit. So that could be very difficult at times, but it is a holistic effort of meeting deaf and hard of hearing in all different venues.
And this is Brenda. I'd like to add, kind of going back to how we are spreading the word out about our programs. In Minnesota Hands and Voices, the parent guides are doing more outreach with when they do in-person visits with the family, they're inviting the deaf and hard of hearing guide to come along so that the deaf and hard of hearing guide can introduce the program and they see them live during the visit. And this way the family can decide if they want more visits with a specific deaf and hard of hearing guide. So that's been successful so far as well. So, and as always, we always mention the Deaf Mentor Family Services Program too. So.
Well, I'd like to thank all of you again for an excellent presentation. Also, a thank you to our captioner, interpreter, and to everybody who has been here today. If you all look in the chat field, you'll see that there's a link posted there into which where you would click on. It will take you to a survey, a short survey about today's experience, and it will also generate for you a certificate of attendance at today's webinar in case you need that for documentation purposes. Remember that today's webinar has been recorded and will be posted in the next couple of days. Let's see, it's Thursday. By Monday, I would guess, Monday or Tuesday of next week, so that you can stream it and share it from infanthearing.org at that time. You'll notice on the screen right now is you can see each of the email addresses for our presenters today. So that'll remain on the screen for the next few minutes if you need to jot down any of that contact information. And once again, thank you everybody for all that you do to support families and children from such a diverse set of individuals whose lives have been touched by hearing difference. Thanks, everybody. Be sure to click on that link.